What's happening, fellas? I'm here with Mike McCommons. He's the founder of the most incredible off-road facility I've ever been at. You'll have to watch the videos we took yesterday. And there's a rich history here at this place that has to be shared. So, Mike, how you doing today?
Doing great. How you guys?
Good, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with us the history of Durhamtown, because this place is absolutely amazing, and I think people will have a better appreciation for it when they hear the history, the past, the present, and what the plans for the future are. So, take it away, Mike.
Well, like I say, we're come from a long line of history here. We're down in the middle Piedmont section of Georgia, about halfway between Atlanta and Augusta. And my family arrived in this area on this property back in 1793, and my great-great-great-great-grandfather of that era came from Virginia and from England and moved to Virginia, and then he fought with George Washington at the Revolutionary War. Well, after we won our freedom, George Washington awarded the soldiers 200 acres in Georgia, the new frontier. So my grandfather of that era, they all came down in a wagon and homesteaded on part of this property, and started out with their 200 acres. And just, in that era, people just farmed and basically existed. There wasn't a whole lot of money to be made. So they went on through the generations, and then came around to the early 1900s. My real grandfather, he went and was there during World War I, and then as it started in the World War II, he started sawmilling to provide lumber for the war effort in World War II. Well, after the war, he started dairy farming, sawmilling, beef cattle, and cotton farming, and then he died in '59. By the time he died, he had about 4,000 acres, and so we decided to continue on with his legacy, and today we've parlayed that into about 30,000 acres here in this part of Georgia. So I went on and went to college and got a degree in forestry and wildlife because I didn't want to live in the city, didn't want to work in the city, so I ended up like, well, what can I do with myself? What can I do with this land? And my dream was a hunting plantation. So I said, hey, I'll just build a nice hunting plantation. And as we progressed through that, hunting definitely is not going to make a living. It's a hobby, and you'll never make a living trying to make a living off of your hobby. So I had to have a way to sustain it, so I had a landscape business. And as I progressed through that and started building the lodge that we're here in, the 9/11, we were putting the roof on this building, and all of a sudden, my landscape business dried up in a matter of 2 hours. So at that point, I turned to my best friend, my hunting manager, and I said, well, what are we gonna do to finish building this hunting plantation that we dreamed of? And at that time, there were some motorcycle guys that came around knocking on the door, and, hey, you got some land, can we pay you $5, $10 to go ride a motorcycle on your land? We said, well, come back after December 31st, January 1st, deer season's over, and we'll let you come out and do a little riding until Labor Day. So sure enough, the riders started coming, and when they did, they just kept coming, and I took it for granted. I had no idea that people didn't have a place to ride. I mean, we used motorcycle for chasing cows with. It was a tool for us. We didn't know what recreational riding was. Well, throughout that first 6 months, the riding just kept exploding and growing, and then all of a sudden I realized this is a potential business here. And so I started evaluating it, listening to people, and, hey, what do you like? People would come up with ideas. I'd never seen a motocross track. I'd never ridden on an organized trail or anything. Just going out in the woods on a four-wheeler hunting and drinking like we all used to do. And so as we started to progress, my mother, the business-minded that she was, she says, this hoodlum business is gonna stop. I'm not gonna let this run on my property. And we had a pretty serious injury with the guys riding with no helmet and crash. And she says, I'm not gonna have that on my property. If you're gonna ride on this property, we're gonna have helmets and we're gonna have some organization out here. And it's not gonna be the get drunk, go ride and tear them up facility either. It's gonna be something that we all be proud of. So sure enough, best advice she ever gave me was cater to the women and the children and you will be successful. Because once you get the ladies there, you got the control of the money. And you got a much better environment around you. And we all like to go out and have our fun. Hell, we always go get drunk, drinking, riding, four-wheelers, go mud dogging, tear up everything we could. Because, 4 or 5 people couldn't do a lot of damage on 25, 30,000 acres. So as we progressed forward, we brought structure to the game, and I didn't know that forest, facilities that the forestry department had was where most people rode. There was no such thing as ride parks back in the day. It was just get on your bike or get on your quad and just go until you tear up something. So as we began to move forward and I began to listen to what people wanted, and I thought, well, I've got a son. Let's just, look at this thing from, if I'm the customer, how would I want to be treated? How would I want to see this progress? And of course, safety, we wanted to keep safety in mind. One-way trails. I didn't know what a one-way trail was. Never even heard of a one-way trail. Never seen a picture of a motocross track. Didn't know. But we had magazines. We had some photographs we could look at. Yep. So I got a buddy of mine, and got 2 of my guys working in the landscape business, and we come out. We got out there and started playing around, and I had another buddy with a dirt bike, and he'd come out and we'd build a couple jumps, and he'd go out and ride it and jump on it and say, you need to do this, you need to do that, and we'd do that. And we just, one day at a time, it just started one day at a time. Just every little jump was a different day. And then we went in there with machetes, and we done wore our cow trails out by that time, and so we just took machetes and started walking through the woods, and we used a lot of deer trails. The main thing we used back in the day, wildlife trails. And of course, I knew the terrain from living on the land my whole life, hunting it, fishing it. And so I just thought it'd be neat to go down here and see these big old oak trees. It'd be neat to go down here and go along this creek or down on the bank of that river or whatever we had that I thought would appeal to people, and that's why we made our trails. So within 2 years, the riding by far had suppressed the hunting, but at the same time, I knew that this wildlife was not going to go anywhere. Wildlife adapts. So I migrated for the first time ever hunting with off-road riding. And everybody thought I was crazy. Well, the people that actually stayed and hunted subsidized the hunting. And it allowed the guys to have the best hunting that they could imagine. And with so few people hunting, it allowed the quality of the hunting to become the better that we could ever dream of doing that. So we basically were successful from a hunting standpoint and from a riding standpoint. The biggest thing we figured out we needed was to get the women here was the comfort of a clean cabin, simple but clean. You got clean beds, you had a clean bathroom. We didn't allow cooking in the cabins. We built a restaurant. My mother's background was cooking and catering, and that was one of my passions, was cooking. And so we just decided to build a restaurant and cater to our riders and our hunters. And that did very well. That was just, we got to provide the Southern cooking that we grew up with, was also part of our heritage that we just continue to share with the people that started coming from all over the world. And that was the amazing part. These people started coming in from southeast. Next thing we know, they're coming from the northeast. They're coming from California, and Alaska, and Canada. And they come in from basically every country in the world. I think we've got representation here. That we're averaging around 50,000, 80,000, got up to about 80,000 people a year coming in here. It became a meeting place due to the location, proximity of the Atlanta airport. It gave us the luxury of being the central focus point of reunions, corporate events, weddings, just location-wise, there couldn't be a better place. Being an hour and a half from Atlanta airport, being an international airport. But it's been a whirlwind of growth. None of this ever had a plan. There was never a design laid out. It was just, well, let's do this today, and it looks like there's going to be a demand for this. One of my theories is create a demand and then provide the solution. You create a demand for food, you give them a restaurant. You create a demand for safety gear, you build a pro shop. You create a demand for repairing dirt bikes, you build a service center. You let people wear their tires out on this good Georgia red clay, you sell tires. And then the biggest thing that we discovered, and that we'd never seen or heard of either, was the opportunity to rent off-road equipment. And people would come, bring their friends. Everybody wants to get their friends involved with a fun activity. I mean, you want to find friends you never had, buy a boat. Everybody's going to show up riding your boat. Same thing here. Take a friend in Durhamtown, he's going to want a dirt bike. So the demand for renting dirt bikes. Well, that part of the business exploded. One area fed the next area. I think one of the parts that I was most proud of was the pressure washer base. Nobody wanted to take their dirt bikes and four-wheelers home muddy and trash their yard. So everybody wanted to trash my yard. I said, okay, so we started putting in, just like at the car wash, coin-operated pressure washer systems. Started out with 2. It'd be a 2-hour wait to get into those. We'll pull more. Another 2-hour wait to get into those, and just kept growing and growing. Now we got, I think, 14 pressure washers out there that still have sometimes an hour-and-a-half wait to get in through those as well. So to create demand for pressure washers, what do? At the end of the trail, you build a big mud hole. Every kid cannot go by that mud hole on his last ride and not go in it.
Amen.
Everybody wants to challenge the mud hole. So now, they might have stayed clean all day, but at the end, they're going to come out muddy. And the first thing they're doing is going to the pressure washer. And because, they don't want to trash their nice lawns. And but anyway, that's been one of the productive areas is, from the food to the pro shop. I guess the pro shop became our biggest hit. I think was one of the first areas when we started. A lot of people didn't wear helmets, especially on four-wheelers. I didn't. I mean, we farmed, rode around this whole place, never wore a helmet. So my mother insisted, after there was a head injury here with no helmet on ATV, everybody's gonna wear a helmet. So what do? We started selling helmets. And it just, the dust, people just couldn't stand the dust, so sold goggles. And one thing just kept leading to another. Back in the day of the 2-strokes, you could not keep enough spark plugs. And you sell one, you got to sell them 2, because they're gonna break down on the trail. They're gonna flood it out. They're gonna fire the plugs. So 4-strokes put an end to that business.
Yeah.
That was our biggest one for a while. But the goggles, that was just amazing for us. I remember one year we sold over 6,000 sets of goggles.
Wow.
In just one year that I remember. Helmets, I think we sold about 900 helmets one year. That was just back in the beginning. No telling what we sold since then. We were the largest dealers for a lot of that different products like that. I've never been to a ski resort or anything like that, but what I've been told is it's like going to a ski resort. You know, I figure, well, if I go there, I don't know what to buy before I get there. No snow in this part of Georgia. So if I need protection or what I needed to ski, I got to buy it there. So I thought, well, hell, this would be the same thing here. You know, if you're going to go riding, you're going to get in the mud, you're going to buy it at the point of need. And, you know, the good thing was on the goggles, we would sell them an average pair of $15, $20 goggles, and they became disposable. So the key to that was every time they come, they buy a brand new set of goggles. And the other thing was people would forget to bring the helmets because that wasn't demanded back prior to Durhamtown. And they get here, they got to buy another helmet and boots, clothing gear, just everything. It was amazing how each part of the business, from tires, I just couldn't imagine the volume of tires. And back in the day when stock ATVs, utility style ATVs was big back then. When they started coming out with the aftermarket tires, the big mud tires, when that got created, we were at the point of need, and everybody got here, they go straight down there and get stuck. What they gonna do? Turn around and come back up here? Buy a set of tires, bigger tread, bigger tire. We put them on, he goes again. And guess what happened? He does what his buddy can't do. So what does his buddy do? Goes back up in and buys a set of tires. So the one thing we figured out when the sport quads was the drag strip. So you build a drag strip, they're gonna wear out tires. If you get beat by your buddy because your tires are slick, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go buy another set of tires so you can beat your buddy. And so, you know, I just kept looking at things from the aspect that what's going to make a better experience? What's going to help you achieve your desires? Or what is your dream? Motocross tracks, you know, we'd never seen one. We started building them. Today we got, I think, about 16, 18 different tracks on the property. We got a pro motocross track, pro level motocross. We got we built what I thought was a great idea, was a 1/3 scale motocross track. And that was designed for the kids, basically 13 and under. All the jumps, everything on that track is brought down in scale to a regular motocross track. And I remember back one day I was talking to a guy and everybody was telling me they'd go to this track and that track. They said, yeah, I cased a jump, I cased this jump. And I'm like, well, what's casing? Never heard of casing a jump. And they go, oh, I broke my leg because I come up short and this and that. And I said, well, why would you build a jump with a gap between it so you could hurt yourself? None of that made sense to me. I said, why don't you just fill it all in with dirt? Well, I didn't realize not everybody has as much dirt or would spend the time or the money to make that track safe. We'll stop right here.
That's okay.
Yeah, some customers coming in, some of our kids.
Matter of fact, this is what it's all about right here. Father and son coming to Durhamtown to do some riding.
So,
And mom's outside too, I'm sure.
yeah, she's around somewhere.
She's probably out riding the ATV.
yeah. You know, that's the best thing about this place is
I seen 3 generations yesterday. Grandma, mom, and grandson out riding. I stopped, I had to film it, it just blew me away. I was like, middle of the woods, like miles out. And she was probably in her 70s on a big 1,000cc quad.
yeah. Well, I got a photo of a guy out there, 93 years old. You still come out here and ride. He's ridden here since the week, you know, the first year we opened. And I've seen, like you said, 4 generations out here at one time riding. One of the unique things is back when we first opened up in January 2002, a lot of the people I met, you know, had little kids like you just saw right there. And here we are in 2023, and now I'm seeing those kids are showing up with their kids. I'm starting to see that. I've been here long enough where I'm seeing the different generations.
Yep.
And to me, that is absolutely amazing. Because to see people carrying on that tradition, and today, that's so hard to do. I mean, the biggest thing about coming out here too, it gets the kids off the computers, and the parents come to me constantly and say, you know what, Mike, he says, we don't know how to thank you enough, but this is one of the few times that we can get our kid away from our computers. He says, you know, when you ask your child, this is my, I guess you could say my best compliment, when they come up and say, well, I asked my family or I asked my children, well, what do y'all want to do for spring break, or what do you want to do for vacation this year? Y'all want to, we can go to Disney World, or we can go wherever, you know. And they'll always come and say, Dad, Mom, we want to go to Durhamtown. And the freedom of that dirt bike or that ATV or whatever, and those kids are able to be in control of their destination. You go to Disney World, what are you gonna do? You're gonna sit in line, you're gonna be miserable, and the family gets agitated. But when you come here, you feel safe, you feel friendly, and you let your child ride. They meet friends, and they communicate, and they come back at the same time, and these kids have grown up together with strangers from all over the country to meet here on certain days and rejuvenate their friendship, to keep them alive. And these are lifelong friends. Today, my best friends are people that I met here. And my son's best friends are the kids that he grew up playing here with and riding with as a kid. And it's become a, I've said this and I don't want to go the wrong way, it's kind of off-roading, it's sort of like a cult. And the only reason I say the word cult is because of the passion. The passion is so strong that it becomes a dominator in your life. And, you know, it's the same with Harley Davidsons. I've looked at how they have created their culture. And now you look at the Durhamtown off-roading community, and Durhamtown has become, I'd say a dominant player or a key player in the off-roading area, and it's become just traditions and families to keep coming here year after year. And I'm gonna take a break.
Okay, we're gonna stop and get a drink.
You were just telling me about how unique it was to be riding through the woods on a trail, and then out in the middle of nowhere you pop in onto a motocross track. Well, we call that one MX4. And when I started designing and you know, locating how I figured out where to put stuff, is I would go into an area of my property and I'd see something as a point of interest, or either it was a non-productive piece of property. What could I utilize this space to create entertainment? Well, I thought about Disney World. I've been to Disney World, and the unique part of Disney World was Epcot and different places. You will travel throughout the park, and then you come upon a feature, okay? And you accomplish, or you do that feature, and then you're traveling and they're selling you stuff all along the way, and then you pop into another feature. Well, the thing here was, if I took this opening in one of the areas we were just talking about was MX4, that was the area we cleared in the middle of the pines for a helicopter landing, to be able to land a helicopter, fill up spray that we would spray our pine trees with herbicides and stuff like that. And so here's this non-productive, bald, red clay spot. I said, well, hell, let's just build a track out here. You know, it's a small area. That thing's what, maybe 2 acres or something like that. It's not much, maybe 1.5 acres. And so we put in this little condensed motocross track. And I would say that track has more hours spent on that track than any track on this property.
Wow.
Because that track is doable by anybody, and that's where we send people to learn to jump for the first time. It was the first place I ever learned to complete a jump. And once I completed that jump, I was able, the biggest accomplishment for me at 50 years of age was I could jump every jump on this track. And that was just humongous for a 50-year-old guy to be able to go out and do this. And so that track has been really a focal point of all of Durhamtown, from every kid's telling us that's the first track I ever jumped on, to now, you know, you can go out and you can hit it at whatever speed you want. But, you know, when you leave that track, you're going down to the river and around the swamp, and you got the overlooks and all that, and then you come on back up, and then you, boom, you pop back up onto another track or another feature. An example was MX-5 and MX-6. We built MX-5 because we had cut some timber in there and where the skidders went, and they left skid trails, and I'm like, man, this is pretty neat. This is kind of makes nice pre-built trails. We just got to get in and clean them out, stump it and do all that. So we did, and we had some terrain elevation on it, so we used those for jumps on there, you know, like natural jumps and so forth. We enhanced them, and we finished that area, and that became such a hit, it stayed so popular and so busy that we built another one beside it called MX-6. And we just kept developing as demand grew. And one of the things is I want to go back to is the side-by-sides is when that started around, 2008 or so, back in there, is we went through a big questioning period of how do we handle side-by-sides on the same trail as a dirt bike and ATV. The good thing about side-by-side, it finally allowed the moms to go ride the trail system and to be able to watch dad or their children jump. They hear them talk about MX4, but they've never seen MX4. So now with the side-by-sides coming into the picture, they could go to all these places on the trails or in the different tracks and see what the family's been talking about. And she gets to sit and take pictures, and you know, it just makes that whole experience that much better. And so I said, well, the side-by-sides, you know, they love to go fast as they grew into the razors and the faster ones as they came and developed. I said, we need to build a track for those guys. We need to build what I called it a GP track, but it's kind of like a race course you would see in California or somewhere. And so I built this I had a big valley between two, a big drawdown in there, and I said, well, this would be great to sit up on the hillside and you can overlook it and see all the activities go on. And I said, plus on that, we can start having races down here. And part of my concept on that area was also I was going to be able to stage them there to host concerts. And we used to do a lot of that, music entertainment out here, festivals and stuff like that. But then as the machines got bigger and even faster, and they came out with what they called turbos, I said, well, we're going to build a turbo track. The key, why would you purchase a unit? And a lot of these units were developed in the West Coast where you could run 100 miles an hour. But there's nowhere much on the East Coast that you could ever achieve the maximum potential of your machine. So I'm thinking, well, let's just build a track where you can get your return on your investment. So I built what I called a turbo track. And that track enables you to get up to nearly 100 miles an hour.
I seen a video last night of a guy who set a new track record here like last week.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe.
Yeah.
I heard Eric told me it was like 480 horsepower side by side.
Yeah.
And he was going over 100 miles an hour. I mean,
that.
and you're right, there's nothing like that anywhere on the East Coast.
On the East Coast, where are you going to be able to ride that type of vehicle around here? I mean, trail riding, but from a business standpoint, I began to learn that adrenaline style riding is something that does not exist on the East Coast. There's nowhere to get the potential out of the ATVs, you know, the YZF 450s and all that. When that started, all that stuff grew, exploded over a period of 10 years. And all that was good for the West Coast. But the East Coast was primarily trail riding. Okay, and that's fine. You got the Happy McCoys, and you got trails now all up and down the East Coast and throughout the mountain ranges and so forth. But the only thing, we're the closest elevation to Florida. When in Florida, everything's flat and sand, and even in South Georgia. I mean, 30, 40 miles from here, there's not another hill nowhere. The sand belt starts, and it goes all the way to the tip of Florida. Well, what can you can only do so much in sand and mud, and that's why the mud parks are created. That's why the big tires and all that, because the only challenge you have is to get through that mud hole because my buddy can't get through it. So you spend another $5,000 to make your machine bigger, badder, and look cooler going through the mud. Okay, well here, we realized that the maintenance of a trail that has mud holes, the mud holes becomes to the point that Junior can't ride through the mud hole, can't go down the trail. If you got a mud hole that's 3 foot deep, and he's riding a little 50cc ATV or dirt bike, he's not got a chance. He's not coming back. You know, that's fun for the guys out drinking a beer. And I used to be one of those guys and can still be that guy. But from a business standpoint, we needed hard pack trails. I say hard pack trails with no water. So we learned from being in the landscape business, I learned to manage water. And in doing so, you never want the water to stay on the trail. Now, there's nothing wrong with the water coming off the trail and being on the side. They can go over there and play in the mud. But that main trails have got to stay open so all the family, the entire family, and every skill level can get through the trail system and get the same enjoyment. And the good thing is it only takes one idiot to entertain 50 people. So all you need is one mud hole every so far, and somebody getting stuck in that mud hole, and everybody's gonna sit around and watch it and enjoy it. They're gonna take pictures, they're gonna talk about it, they're gonna laugh about it, and that's all part of the multi-facet of entertainment out there. And so I focused on maintaining these trails mud-free at all times. And in doing that, it allows you to drive your machine and get maximum potential out of it. So with the turbo track, the GP track, the drag strip, you know, that opens the door for all the big guys, the big side-by-sides and all. You got your motocross tracks, you got your drag strips. I had a flat oval track. All of that, it allows them to get out there and do anything you ever wanted to do on your dirt bike or ATV or side-by-side. I feel like we give you that opportunity out here.